A woman who understands that she is worth protecting because of who she is can stand up and say, the boundary is you never put your hands on me. Ever, period, full stop.
I use Throom targets on the range for all the benefits of steel with none of the drawbacks. They're made in the USA too. Pick up a set to make your shooting more fun and effective.
And what I see happen all the time is I see women get into places where they go, well, yeah, but he only hits me when I do the things that make him mad. Or it really was my fault. No, wrong. We taught each other this in elementary school, right? We use words. And somebody puts their hands on you, I'm telling you, if he puts his hands on you once, that's once too many. And the progression goes this way. And it's difficult. So when we really see the victims of domestic violence, they generally don't leave until the third incident that law enforcement gets involved. The problem is the ones that before the third time that law enforcement gets involved, he gets drunk enough, angry enough, stupid enough, and he's gotten away with it enough that she ends up dead. So we'll talk about what the answer to that is in just a little bit. Domestic, number one. The second one is a little bit different. This one is in a hospital in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And what you're going to see here is you see the security guard is there talking to the nurse, and you're going to see a young woman walk up. And this young woman is victimized and targeted because she's wearing a hijab. Okay? Now watch what goes down with that. So they're just sitting there talking for a little bit. Watch the young girl who's just there to get seen. She's there at the hospital to get some help. You can tell this is in the before times because nobody's wearing a mask. Now watch her walk up, and there's this guy that's a known, he's known emotionally disturbed person who's been around that hospital a bunch. And she's just walking up to see if she can get some help. Now watch this guy come from the bottom of the screen and just sees her. No, he doesn't like that, and just punches her and just drills her right in the side of the head. Now, eventually they get that guy and they're, gonna hold him down, and he got arrested and all that stuff. Why did he attack her? Because he knew he could get away with it. He didn't like the fact that she was Muslim. He's an emotionally disturbed person and decided he didn't want to use words. Screamed at her, apparently, and if you go read the news story on that one, screamed at her to go back to her country. She was born in Minneapolis. She's a native-born American citizen. Like a third-generation native-born American citizen. So, okay. So remember what I told you? Number one time of victimization. Minneapolis, by the way, tough town. Really rough town. Okay. The other one out of Sao Paulo, Brazil. Sao Paulo is one of the most dangerous towns in the world. And so, again, what did we see in both of those? High population density, high poverty rates. Somebody who fit the profile of victimization. And so that's what you kind of have to think through. Now, the foundation of how we deal with some of that stuff. Number one, you have to believe that you're worth defending. I will say the number one thing that I have to help women with in America is to understand that they are worth defending, number one. And I just would ask you that question at the bottom. Why are you worth defending? And I will tell you, I talk to a lot of women that have a hard time answering that question. And that's why so much happens that they go, no, I kind of deserved it. No, you don't. Why would you say you deserve that? And that starts very early, that you get conditioned to demur, especially to men in your world. Because if you don't, if the first time somebody tells you to sit down and shut up, and you go, no, I'm not gonna sit down and shut up, who are you? Then they go, oh, what are you, a bitch? So if you actually set and maintain healthy boundaries, you have to be ready to be called a bitch. You have to be ready to have people push back against that. But we're taught not to do that. We're taught to just take that first bit, and then again, in a romantic relationship, especially again, old cultural stuff, right? There was plenty of time that a man could put his hands on his wife or his kids and it wasn't really a big deal. It's just what was there. You don't believe me? You ever heard of the rule of thumb? Have you heard that idea of rule of thumb? Do you know where that phrase came from? In English common law, a man was not allowed to beat his wife with a stick that was any bigger around than his thumb. That's where that word came from. If he beat his wife with a stick that was less than around than his thumb, it was legal. If it was bigger around than his thumb, he was in trouble. So that was, and you go, well, it's not really that big a deal. I'm sorry, guys. I ran a church for 14 years. I got to see all the insides of people's lives. And that kind of violence happens because we get, first of all, said, this is your place and you must stay in it. And I think the answer to that, first of all, is believing that you're worth defending. Now, that to me is a theological commitment because I believe that human beings, men and women, are made in the image of God and of inestimable value and worth and dignity. And so when you go, why am I worth defending? When you ask that question of yourself, that has to be the foundational attitude. When we say, wait a minute, how do I combat domestic violence? A woman who understands that she is worth protecting because of who she is can stand up and say, the boundary is you never put your hands on me. Ever, period, full stop. Now, here's my joke. So Laura and I used to say this thing, and I lament this, in fact. We used to joke, divorce never, murder maybe. I don't say that anymore, and I'll tell you why. If my wife lost her mind and started hitting me, I would not live with her. And you might say, well, but you got to understand, man. I mean, she just kind of gets out of control, and I know the things that I do, and if I don't do the things that make her mad, no, wait a minute, that's me being manipulated in my actions, that somebody else is being violent to me. How much violence is acceptable in a home? Zero. Why? Because you say, I am worth more than that. I say similarly, if, we say, well, divorce is a bad thing, and if you're a church-going person, probably you hear that all the time, divorce is evil and God hates it. But if the cost of an intact marriage is a broken human, the cost is too high. And if I decided, you know what, we're gonna start cooking and selling meth out of the house. And my wife goes, that's not cool. You must submit to me, and I will start beating you if you don't. No, you go, well, enjoy cooking meth, bro, I'm leaving. And I would expect that. And that would be healthier. So I can't tell you enough. That first one, if you wanted to get better at self-defense, get Cloud and Townsend's book, Boundaries. Get that book, Boundaries. And it's a very healthy book about, here's a healthy way that we can interact. And if you can't do that thing, then we can't interact anymore. Now, I'm going to tell you, you start enforcing boundaries on people, you start defending your boundaries, that's going to cause you some strife. I've had many family members that I go, hey, you can't talk to me that way. And I'm not going to talk to you if you want to talk to me that way. Well, I can talk any way we want. Hey, you get to talk any way you want. But if you were communicating with me, I don't let people talk to me in that manner. And so if we're going to continue a conversation, I'm going to ask you to stop that. Well, I'll do whatever I want. Then the conversation's over. Now, I know we've got some younger people here, but, well, maybe if you're homeschooling, you haven't. But I've been on a middle school campus. I know what kids are these days, right? So my rule, I had this rule as a pastor. I don't mind foul language. I was a sailor, and I was in construction. Bad language doesn't hurt me at all, but I don't let bad language be used at me as a weapon. So you drop F-bombs all day long, but you start, and we use this phrase in particular, you start motherfucking me and calling me the bad language. I go, oh, I'm sorry. So my rule is I don't allow people to speak to me that way. I don't care about the bad language, but I don't allow you to use words to attack me. I'll do whatever I want. You can't tell me what I can. I'm not telling you what language you can and can't use. I'm telling you the way that you address me if you want to talk to me. And I've literally hung up the phone on family members. Nope. They call back, nope. Boundaries. Now, is that me being mean and rude and they're going to call me all kinds of dirty names? Okay. But honestly, again, same thing. Somebody wants to put hands on me. Nah, we don't do that. I don't allow somebody to put their hands on me. Why? First and foremost, the foundation of self-defense has to come from self-worth. Has to come from an understanding. Dear?
I was just going to say, I think there's a commentary about the fact that men are treated differently if they establish boundaries, that women don't get treated the same way.
Okay, explain.
They have boundaries. Well, like you were saying, women are raised or expected to be more docile, more subservient?
Yeah,
like-
demure, subservient, accepting of those things.
Accepting, right. And so, you know, if you say, I'm not willing to have people talk to me that way, you'll probably get the respect that, you know, you're
Strong,
people-
confident man.
Right, but if you're a woman,
Bitch.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
But I'll tell you, I think that's going to take a culture change. But I also think you're a child of the one true King, for God's sake. You're a child of the King of Kings. You don't talk to the king's daughter that way. What, are you kidding me? How dare you address my child that way? I just think it's an affront to God, quite frankly, to talk to somebody's daughter that way. Imagine this if somebody talked to your daughter that way. Some stranger talks to your daughter that way. Would you step in and go, I'm sorry, you're not going to address my child like that? I mean, would you, right? Yeah, so you go, no, you're not talking to my child that way. How do you think God feels about that? Don't talk to my child that way. How dare you? Now, is that going to earn you some labels? So this is a cost if you're going to live a boundaried life that you just have to be willing to pay. But the cost of not doing it is what? Being abused.